reality and feeling like there's a higher meaning to life, what your values are, how you see life, and your experiences, and just being willing to push through. And also the experiences that you have and how you see people dealing with things too. And sometimes that pushes you to do the same thing or do the complete opposite. But there are ways that we can kind of grow in those areas. That's encouraging to me, because I've had situations in my family where I've seen that some of us, we've kind of had some similar situations, and some of us are able to kind of push through and overall have good lives and be productive and all of that. And some of us aren't. And my question was, what is that thing? But the other part of it is, if it can be developed, it's also up to that person to be willing to do the things that it takes. And sometimes willing to do the things that it takes means therapy, means, okay, willing to look at the things that maybe I'm not doing right, or the things I'm struggling in, or the areas that I keep bumping my head up against. And the problem is that, and I only been a Black person, so I can only talk for us. Right. we can sometimes tend to just keep doing the same things, getting the same results, and not being willing to push past that for fear of whatever. But you know, I often tell people, like, we don't want to make changes or do something different, but what do you have to lose? I mean, we already know what this feels like. It doesn't feel good. Fact. And it can either not get better or it could get better. Yeah. So if we're already comfortable with where we're at, what do you have to lose to try something different? That could be the key to the next step, you know? But sometimes we need help. Exactly. There is nothing wrong with asking for help, but I think a lot of times we've learned that that's not a good thing. I grew up with a mom who was sick for a long time, continued to work, had trouble walking, but she gonna catch the train, not ask anybody for help, keep going, pushing through. And so I realized in my adult life, I don't ask people for help. Like, I have to, like, I remember working with my therapist on, who would you ask for help? Like, I think about, if I needed money, or I don't know who I would ask. I don't know and not that I don't have people to ask, but I'm just not wired that way. I just feel like I just got to figure it out. And that's not helpful. That's not really super healthy, you know? So all those things we kind of have to unlearn that make you strong, but does it really? Because then my other question, I want to ask you guys a question. Yeah. Strength. Like, what's your definition of strength? What makes someone strong?
I'm gonna let you leave.
No, I'm gonna let you go first. I'm gonna let you go first. What's your definition? So I need to hear.
And so it's very coincidental that this is like what we're talking about right now, because this is actually something that I am currently working on in therapy right now, is asking for help when I need it. Because I was always the person that people leaned on. Like, I'm the go-to person for a lot of situations. Like, when people are going through things, they call LC. Like, LC, what? I need your advice on this, or I need your help with this. So when I was faced with, hey, like, I need help, but who do, and again, I got Sabrina. I could easily pick up the phone. Sabrina's been here been there for me through so many things throughout my entire life. And I have so many people. I have an amazing support system, but to me, I was almost like ashamed of like I don't have it together. Yeah. You know what I mean? And so dealing with the shame of being the person that was, I guess, in need, that was something that was really difficult for me to deal with. But I guess to answer your question, how I identify strength is like courage under fire. Like doing the hard thing even when you don't want to. But it's necessary. And still pushing through and just coming out on the other side of it. You know what I mean? It's pretty simple for me. It's just courage under fire is kind of how I can simplify it.
I'm sitting here thinking, because I'm like, okay, the question is,
how do you strength? How do you define strength? Like,
how do I define strength?
Yeah.
I don't even know how to answer that. Like, that's the honest to God truth right now. I'm like, wow. I'm saying, like, how do I define strength? Because it's all like all the things that other people would identify, or most people, right, would identify as having strength, right? Persevering and, you know, that type of thing. I don't think it's necessarily a strength. And so when you say courage under fire, it's like you're put in that situation and you have to do something. You know, you say, okay, you got to do something. That doesn't, to me, equal strength. That's more of a willful, or what's the word? I don't know. Like, I'm trying to think of the word. I can't think of the word for that. But willful is the closest thing I think of right now. But as far as strength is concerned, I'm like, I don't know. Now, see, now you're gonna have me. Okay, I need people to tell us what.
I think it's up to each person to define what that looks like for themselves. I don't think that there's like one like arbitrary answer for what is strength. To me,
and that's okay. But I'm just saying, for me, I'm literally like, what is strength? Like, I mean, obviously, I can think about it in the physical sense of like, oh,
right. I'm gonna write that down.
Please do. But I'm just thinking like. Because you know what? Okay, moment of transparency here. I think I have such a block with it because my whole life, two phrases that I can't stand. Okay, one is let's keep the peace. Let's do X, Y, and Z to keep the peace. Let's not say this to keep the peace. And then the other is you're so strong. You're so strong. Oh, I don't know how you had the strength to get through that, or you know what I'm saying. So that phrase, right? The strength to get through, and those things to me don't go together. What do you mean strength to get through? Like I feel like they're very separate for me. I'm like strength and through, the strength to get through. Like that whole thing is like
piggybacking off of what you're saying. I do feel like society and / social media, because that's become synonymous with society, unfortunately. I do feel like the definition of strength that is forced upon us, I don't think that necessarily is how I would define strength. Like a lot of people feel like grinning and bearing it and not expressing your feelings. I actually think that in order to be vulnerable and to tell the guy that you're dating first, like, hey, I love you, and I don't care if you don't say it back. You know what I'm saying? I feel like that requires. We're not gonna talk about that right now. That's not what we're here for today. But I'm just saying.
I got questions that need answers.
That's not this topic right now. But you know what I'm saying? But that takes a lot of courage to do that, and to put yourself out there in a situation to make yourself vulnerable. And knowing like, hey, I could potentially be hurt, but I'm gonna do it anyway. You know what I mean? Or even like amongst like sometimes with our parents and the way that we were raised. And I'm speaking on my people, but sometimes like even challenging like things that we've outgrown or unlearned as we've developed in our adulthood into our parents, and saying like, hey, I know that this is the way that you've always said this to me, but hey, that hurts my feelings. And sometimes that takes an act of courage or strength to stand up to your parent or grandparent or whomever is in your life that are, you know what I'm saying? So I feel like expressing our feelings in a way.
More courage though than it is strength? Because courage is not the same strength.
But my definition of strength is courage under fire.
Yeah.
I know, but okay.
But I mean, I think my point is, what I've thought is, I do think it kind of should be individual. I think for me, as I'm thinking about it, I think I changed my answer. I think the idea of strength that I've always been told is you're assertive, you stand up for yourself, you don't let people walk all over you, you keep going, all those things. And I was a very sensitive child. I'm still sensitive, but I cried all the time. I don't cry all the time anymore. And the message that I always got was, you need to pick your feelings up off the ground. Or I had someone tell me, you need to be more like this person because they're mean. Like, it's not, no, I'm Brianna. So for me, the fact that I could say as an adult, but I'm not that person, I'm Brianna. And realizing that my sensitivity is my superpower. It's the thing that helps me to be great at what I do. And it's not a weakness, it's a strength. So being able to figure that out for me. And then I think too, being able to go through things and being not only just able, but willing to, because I've also known people, like one of the things you said, Sabrina, is you kind of have to. But some people don't have that have to. They just collapse and they can't deal with difficult things.
Mhm.
And I think for me, I didn't understand it. I'm like, I mean, but that's just what you do, right? But that's not what everybody does. Everybody doesn't have that ability to just kind of push through. Some people literally give up. And although we think that there are things that we just have to do, everybody just doesn't function like that. So to be able to deal with all the things that you've been able to deal with life, I know I've gone through things I never thought I would be able to deal with. I'm like, oh, wow, okay, you really are strong. And that's not the message that I got, because I was made to feel that something about being sensitive was a bad thing, that my emotions were detrimental.
Do you think that that's something that's like commonly, I guess, put on us as being Black women, that our sensitivity is a bad thing?
Yeah, suck it up. So emotional.
Like you, I was a very sensitive child. I cried all the time. I'm be honest. I still be crying. So I cried
too, but just some of the things I'm crying, you know, in high school. But I don't want to talk about him, but it was just crazy. Like, why are you crying all the time?
No, you must
everybody
talk about
know
it.
who you're crying about. So it's just
you must tell us about the situation.
But I'm sensitive, and not even just like in sadness. Like, I'm sensitive on all things. Like, I was watching an episode of Little Big Shots with Steve Harvey and the little kids, and one of the kids wanted to be like an American Ninja Warrior, and he got through the obstacle course, and everybody cheered for him, and I just burst into tears. I'm like, oh my God, why am I crying right now? But I'm like overwhelmed with emotion, but like literally expressing it through my tears. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I was watching 90 Day Fiance yesterday, and the guys getting married, and the father-in-law, they started crying. I'm crying. My friend crying.
I'm not crying. You are.
Yeah.
It's my allergies. This is my allergies. I'm telling you.
You know what? Y'all have really given me a lot to think about, because I'm really like, I think, you know what? I think for me, I think about things logistically all the time. Like, since I've been on this earth, my earliest